podcast discussing mods and mod makers. I am your host Unoctium, and joining me is Kris Takahashi.
Yo.
And joining us is Navmesh95, who has been in the mod community for a while. His latest project is Fallout 4: The Capital Wasteland. Hey Nav, how you doing?
I'm very tired, but I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. My first question about Fallout 4: The Capital Wasteland is... which is basically just like you're making Fallout 3 and Fallout 4, right?
First thing I want to say is I find this hilarious, because obviously, for you guys out there, Unoctium is like one of the key guys with the mod as well.
Well,
he's asking. He knows the answers, but no. So the project came about, and it is to recreate. I think that's the key part there.
Yeah.
It's recreating. We're going to try and give people the classic Fallout 3 experience with all the extras that Fallout 4 introduced, and we want to improve as well. So there's certain pictures that you'll see that obviously they don't look exactly the same.
Have you gotten any flack for things not being exactly alike? Because I feel like some guy's gonna walk into a cell and see like a box of sugar bombs on the wrong shelf, and he's gonna completely lose his mind.
Oh yeah, no, I expect that 100%.
It's like completely unplayable. Hashtag not my Fallout.
Honestly, I've been on Twitch for like a few years now. The internet, like I did a lot of stuff with Gopher. I don't care anymore.
Okay.
After you work in moderation for a few years for communities, you just like do not care. Just go for it.
So when you're recreating it though, is it more of just eyeballing it, or are you like matching coordinates and shit like that?
Right, so with matching coordinates, we can't do that because we're not allowed to directly port the height map from Fallout 3. So I had to go through a bullshit process of trying to redraw geographical data as close as I could.
Oh god, that sounds awful.
Like I literally got the geographical data and used a picture of a cluttered Fallout 3 map, so they can't have a go at me for taking their actual height map.
I don't think they care. They're just like...
Yeah, they probably don't care.
Yeah.
Don't find this out later down the line, but... So, overall, the actual world itself is probably about 10% smaller.
No, shit. Yeah, you've already pissed countless people off already.
This is an issue that I didn't see coming until
it came.
I think in the grand scheme of things, though, you're not going to notice it that much.
People aren't going to notice, like, the occasional tin can at the wrong angle or something like that, but if you do something like fuck up somebody's face, like if you made Sarah Lyons unattractive, can you imagine the shitstorm?
People would be scared one of their waifus being good looking.
Yeah, you have to really pay attention to like the faces and stuff. Like you have a responsibility there.
An issue, especially because there's so many characters, and I am looking for somebody to come onto the project that just wants to recreate the faces.
Yeah. Like you have a responsibility there with especially some of the iconic characters like Gary and Sarah Lyons and Moira.
And Leo.
I mean,
Leo's style.
Moira's face is not done yet. But,
yeah, in Fallout 3, they're more or less all the same kind of potato face. There's a little bit of variation, but it's not as if, yeah, they're indistinguishable from each other. So it's kind of like you're the first person who's going to actually give them an actual face. It's a lot of weight on your shoulders.
It's quite refreshing, though, because it's the same thing, though, with everything in this project so far. We've literally just talking to one of the level designers about 5 minutes ago in our secret little chat room over here. He's taken a lot of inspiration from the originals. To him, look, these look nothing like the originals, but they look good.
Yeah. Just don't mess with the waifus. And you'll be alright.
He's been working on the Paradise Falls interiors.
Yeah.
And I didn't realise until I loaded up the GEC and looked at them in Fallout 3 how shit they are. They're just the same everywhere. They don't resemble the buildings outside at all. And Callum has just made them... They just feel like they fit much better.
Is there any other tinkering that's going to go on as far as... Like, I feel like Fallout 4, one of the big advancements was the vertical spacing. Like, you could do a lot of exploring going in and up buildings, and there was a lot more vertical exploration in that game, whereas Fallout 3, it was all on the ground, right? Are you guys going to do anything with the buildings or anything like that?
Probably not. No.
Oh well.
What gave it its atmosphere is being on the ground and underground.
Right.
So
there is no city really.
My second question, after all hearing all this wonderful information, is why? Why are you doing this? What's wrong with you? Do you need some help? Do you need some intervention?
Yeah.
I think there's websites for that particular kink.
I mean, I kind of work around a lot of alcohol, so it's not exactly easy. But yeah, it was just kind of a thing that one day I sat down and I was on Reddit and I saw people trying to remake the settlement system.
Mm-hmm.
And as good as they were, I still couldn't help but laugh and say, holy shit, these are bad.
So you were that guy. You were the guy who saw the tin can at the wrong angle and said, I could do that better.
You're the troll that gets downvoted 10 points.
My sugar bombs will be on the right shelf, is what you were saying.
So yeah, literally, I saw people attempting to make Megaton, and I was just like, you're not doing it right. You're not giving it justice.
Yeah.
Time in Fallout 3 in the capital Wasteland.
And now you're stuck making the whole game. Well done, now.
No, that's Matty's fault.
So how much time is being devoted to this every day? How much time? I mean, I know like Unoctium is doing like working on this Dogtooth all. You got a whole team together, but as far as individually, how much time do you guys each spend on this game?
I can't say honestly, man. Like there'll be some days where I'll just sit on the creation kit, level designing and working on stuff for hours on hours. Like in the it took me 2 days to rebuild Paradise Falls, and that was probably about 9 hours. So the exterior of that's done, or more like the interior, exterior.
But I guess the important thing is, did it feel like 8, 9, 10 hours? I know personally, like when I'm in the creation kit, there's some things that it just goes by like quick because you're into it, you're working, you're inspired. I mean, is that the case?
Yeah, for me, obviously, level design, like exterior work, I don't know why, but I just sit down and I just don't stop. Unless I've got something else on my mind, I won't come out of that thing for like 2 or 3 hours.
I mean, he's on Twitch, which we'll link below, which you can just watch him. He just tunes out for 8 hours just making something. Where for me, it's like you can have the opposite, where you like spend 50 minutes scripting for this, and it feels like 15 hours. Which is why I spend a minute every week doing script.
It's the Navmesh for me. Like, is just I could never do that. Like, I admire people who can Navmesh like a whole world the way you guys. I mean, that's what you have to do, right? You have to do every triangle, right? Oh, yeah.
Well, actually, no. It's the generation has come a long way, and it's actually usable now.
Oh.
If you try to do that, like this is going back to Project Brazil here, or we tried doing the Navmesh once or twice, and we tried doing it not by hand, and we gave up pretty quickly because no matter what machine we tried running it through on, it would just crash the gag no matter what we did. It just wouldn't do it.
And then the current one, it's more usable, it's feasible to just have it auto-generated.
You just open up a window, press go. If you're not running it on a potato, you'll probably get it generated in about a minute or 2.
Wow.
You could have told me this before I started doing it triangle by triangle in the vault.
He probably didn't tell you on purpose.
For basic exterior worlds that are just, terrain and cliffs and trees and buildings and stuff, the auto-gen will sort you out no problem. You may have to delete, Navmesh islands that are on rooftops or for some reason on top of a lamppost somehow, and just clean it up around certain objects because it really doesn't like shelters. It doesn't like those. It'll just generate the Navmesh on top of the shelter and not underneath. You've got to sort it out. But otherwise, it's come along millions of miles, and it's actually really helpful now.
Nice.
So, you have said in the past that you have a big disclaimer saying you're probably not going to recreate the whole thing, right? Yeah.
Obviously, you were part of this. We came to a decision pretty early on in the project that we're not that insane to try and rebuild the whole thing. We wanted to create it's not really vertical, but we want to focus on a small area and a few quests to get in with Bruma. Mm-hmm. It's just to get something out so people stop bitching.
Yeah, when is that whole thing going to be done anyway?
Yeah, the whole
Bruma was in beta testing.
I wasn't being serious. I'm sure that's the number one question is when the release date is. So,
yeah.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best way to go, is just start with Springvale, start with Megaton, that area, just get something out, and then if people are interested, people just kind of expand bit by bit, right?
Yeah, that was the ideal goal, because I mean, right now the ideal vertical slice for us would include you go from the Super Duper Mart to Springvale to Megaton, go down to Fairfax Ruins and Fort Independence, and then from there you go down a bit more, you've got Andale, and to the left you've got, Tenpenny Tower.
The one thing you have in your favor, it's really not that big of a map, I don't think, compared to some of the other games. I don't recall. Oh, really? But compared to Skyrim, compared to Morrowind was an older game, so it was a bit smaller. But compared to Fallout 4,
itself is still not that big. The thing with Skyrim is that they've separated the map very well. Like, obviously, yeah, it is big, but it's deceivingly bigger than it actually is.
Yeah, I think because like each individual hold has its own character, so in that sense, I guess it feels bigger. Whereas Fallout 3 is I don't want to say it's monolithic, but because it's more or less the same, it just feels smaller, I guess. But that's no consolation to you, who has to recreate every little bit. I guess what you're saying is, like, you need more money, you need funding for this. Do you have a Patreon or anything like that?
Well, this is the thing as well. There's always that issue with modding that you don't want to get caught up in the whole paid modding fiasco. Bethesda's lawyers descending on you because you're somehow charging for a mod even though you're not charging for it.
I think there's some people that have already got past that already. I don't think Bethesda care too much.
Yeah, but because I'm pretty sure Skywind had a Patreon, didn't they?
Quite a few people have Patreons that basically
broken every rule that ever existed.
Yeah, I have a Patreon, but it's only for the podcasts.
Yeah, I think there's a rule where you can't sort of implicitly put something behind a paywall, otherwise,
You can't basically say that it's for modding. You can't even, like, imply that modding is something that you do on your Patreon, I think. It has to be explicitly for a separate project or for yourself. So basically what a lot of people have done, and I'm not saying I do this, but they've just sort of kind of made it about either separate projects or just made up even. Almost like oh, I'm doing this other project and, wink, wink. This is what I'm getting paid for.
There's a wink, wink, I'm making podcasts, every 6 months.
But we're not doing that because obviously we're making a real live podcast, so that's totally not us.
This is no way money laundering on Chris's part.
yeah. This is real, god damn it. We're serious about this.
But no, my main worry with that is that I deserve shit all until we actually release something that somebody can play.
Yeah, but I think you're one of the very few world builders that are, okay. So, you deserve something.
Yeah, and plus, if you have something released, like a teaser, like a Megaton, and, just a small area, it sort of shows that you're committed to doing this, that you're capable of doing this, and that it's just need a little bit more motivation, just a little bit more of that scratch.
If you release that vertical slice, if you just get, Megaton all scripted out, you'd be gold, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Someone
even doing that requires a lot of scripting.
Yeah, someone has to do that, right?
I hope we make somebody else to help him.
I hope we find that person.
Yeah, I am trying to find this magical person that might help the other magical person.
Okay.
I hope you treat that person right. Show them the proper respect. And not make them Navmesh an entire vault without telling them about the autogen, because that would just be fucked up. I mean, only like a complete a-hole.
I assumed that person would, look at the top of the creation kit, press the Navmesh button,
like they're just little
say auto-generate.
Yeah, especially like a highly skilled modder, you'd think would know about that. Yeah. Of course, I didn't know about it.
To that highly skilled model, though, they might look like children's drawings and not make any sense. Alright, so yes, you are making the whole of Fallout 3 and Fallout 4, and we wish you luck, and we'll section you straight afterwards. But in the meantime, you've worked on other projects as well, haven't you? You've worked on Beyond Skyrim, of which we've talked about, Beyond Skyrim Bruma, which is going to release on July 1st, if I am not correct.
It's coming soon.
Great.
I don't remember the exact date.
Oh, that's the worst word.
This is the real deal. Some idiot over there has released a trailer that has a release date on it. So we're gonna have to do it now. So yeah, expect to be on Skyrim Bruma. Expect to be venturing into Cyrodiil and getting your first.
Wait. We need to go back. Why is it July 1st? Because I saw that date too. I mean, I assumed it was official. What happened here? Where was like wires?
It is official. I'm just calling somebody an idiot for giving us a release date. Because if something goes wrong now, and if we miss it, we're gonna get crucified.
I'm not sure where this like battalion of Romans goes around crucifying people now. Or I've never been.
Yeah, I mean, like, what's the worst thing that's gonna happen if you miss the release date?
People get mad.
Yeah, that is true. Just, you gotta turn off social media sometimes.
So tell us a little about the appeal of Beyond Skyrim as opposed to just being a place where you go to beyond Skyrim.
Well, I think a lot of people have brought up the point that it's just Skyrim, but on the other sides of the mountains.
Right.
And still a hell of a lot of influences from the other areas of Cyrodiil in there.
It's like a northern Cyrodiil type place that's snowy.
And it's changed a bit since Oblivion as well. And the new architecture and, it does resemble the old stuff, but it's also taking on a bit more life and a bit more style to it. A Nordic theme.
Uh-huh.
But then you go just down the mountain and there's these wide open green, lush woodlands. And, there's huge alien ruins covered in all sorts of plants and trolls that want to every corner, and it's just so refreshing. And I know that my work on the Gold Coast is not going to be released anytime soon, but if you've seen any of the pictures, you feel like you're in the Mediterranean.
Yeah, I feel like it really is the perfect segue because it's Skyrim, but it's not Skyrim. It's kind of caught in between.
Yeah.
So you're slowly kind of transitioning from the north to more of like Cyrodiilic
Exactly.
landscapes and atmosphere and blah, blah, blah. Right? So, I mean, it really was the perfect choice. It makes sense both narratively and conceptually.
Majority of standpoints, technologically wise, so, we literally go over the mountains and you're there. We don't have to explain, oh, you somehow ended up fucking in the Heartlands.
Yeah, exactly.
From going through a mountain.
Yeah.
So speaking of, do you know anything of the story, or what would be the sort of hook?
I don't really want to give anything away.
But do you have like a hook which would sort of bring the Dragonborn or whoever to Bruma or whatever?
I think the main, from what I remember, the main storylines and quests don't rely on you being the Dragonborn. Because the Dragonborn, apart from one of the Emperors, didn't mean shit in Cyrodiil. The Blades were kind of in there a bit, but, that was all royalty, all that sort of stuff. So
yeah, and people are gonna lose their shit if they're playing with a mod that makes them not the Dragonborn. Speaking from personal experience.
Yeah,
it's good to avoid that.
Again, we got two people here who are just afraid of this mythical band of crucifiers. Just gonna put you up.
Yeah, they're intense, man. You don't mess with the Inquisition.
Speaking from someone's point of view who's genuinely been in the firing line, But like, see with Bruma, right? Obviously, like Beyond Skyrim, this is a wee segment of the Beyond Skyrim package. So, say you've got a game and you've played through Bruma or whatever, and then the rest of Beyond Skyrim comes out. Will you be able to continue from Bruma to the next, like your part, like the Gold Coast, for example, if it ever comes out?
We really, really hope so.
Okay.
At this point,
not a lot of confidence in that statement there.
Well,
maybe, probably,
yeah.
Yeah,
personally think you should never guarantee anything until you know you can guarantee it.
Yeah, definitely.
And I don't want to get anybody's hopes up.
In fairness, like, to people who, like, don't understand the amount of work and effort and dedication it takes, just releasing Bruma, if that's the only thing you do, is, like, a huge major accomplishment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. So, like, anything beyond that is just gravy. It's extra credit, as far as I'm concerned. So, I mean, I think if people look at it that way, there'll be less kind of, like, the natural inclination, the human inclination is always want more, to create this expectation. But if people have the expectation, like, okay, this in itself is crazy, and then anything on top of that, it's just extra credit.
So you've been working on Skyrim, but you've also worked on plenty of games throughout the years. You've worked on Fallout New Vegas, specifically Project Brazil, which will also come out presently. Am I right?
Hopefully.
Okay.
Last time I checked in with Brandon, it was a few weeks ago now, and they were still chewing through content. But this is another thing you've got to think about with Project Brazil, is that it's a tiny team. There's about 4 guys that are still working on it from the start. There's been lots of people come in and out and do work. One of those. I still keep up with them all, and I'm still in the email chain and all this sort of stuff. But I've not actively done any work on Project Brazil for about half a year now.
Can you tell us a little about what Project Brazil is? I mean, the first part is already out there. It's the sort of preview part, but can you tell us a little bit more about it for people that might not know?
Brandon's vision with Project Brazil was to create like a prequel.
Right. To Fallout New Vegas.
And in many ways it's not lore-friendly. In a lot of other ways it is. Because there's a lot of stuff that he's played off of the existing lore, and he's also had a lot of room to adjust things. So, you're getting a full package here. Can make it.
The first part came about 4 years ago, right? And that took part in a vault.
Yes.
And you were just this Vault 18, I think it was, or Vault 19, and you're just a high school kid, and then you're involved, and then something goes down, naturally, and then you get involved in all that conflict, and then you get expelled into the Wasteland, and that's where Project Brazil Part 2 will take off, and it's a whole Wasteland, isn't it? Which you've done.
It is Project. The whole Wasteland existed, and I'm literally using the word existed because that's all it did. It was just there.
What about the Navmesh?
No, well, that's what I mean. Like, it was literally Brandon. He had no skills in level design at all, but he had so much passion.
I feel his pain. But so there was no Navmesh.
Worked through it. He just worked through it, and he just created this massive fucking wasteland that, quality-wise, was shit. He wanted it to work. So, I come into this and I felt bad for saying what I'm saying, and also for going, dude, I've got to redesign all of this shit. I've got to redesign every key location for you. And he was like, I mean, I don't really want to, but, like, yes, it'll make a bloody difference. So, some of the more iconic places that I worked on were, a lot of the pictures that got released, there was the town of Barstow.
Oh.
There's a huge quarry to the main story as well. There's a huge quarry, and there's a picture or two of that went out. I built a whole elevated landing platform over the quarry using quarry cranes. So it was ridiculous. And then there's obviously Fort Dagger Point, which is going to be one of the main areas.
I hope you informed him a little bit more gently than this whole thing is shit. And I'm gonna have to redo it all, or were you a little bit nicer about it when you kind of just let him down gently?
Not much nicer.
I might have to tweak a few things here and there, but it's very inspiring,
The way I got into the project was saying, look, you just let me show you what I could do with one of your locations. Okay. And he reluctantly agreed.
So you basically just grabbed him by the neck, slapped him in the face a couple times. God, this is fucking horrible. Let me fix it. And then you fixed it.
This is pretty much full circle from when you saw that megaton in Reddit you just said.
Yeah. I think that's true.
Yeah, we're recognizing a pattern here with you.
This is basically just walk into places and go, it's all shit. I will change it for the better.
Yeah, you just walk into some China shop, you just knocking over fucking vases and shit and just redecorating the whole thing, and some poor old lady is behind the counter just freaking out, calling the police. And
tell bartender, I just love looking at somebody else and going, shit, I'll make it properly. That's what I do every night.
Yeah. We should just have a camera follow you around, make it a TV show.
Some of the shit I see at the bar is fun. It's honestly really fun.
It was beyond Skyrim the only Skyrim project you were involved in, or were you involved in another one at all?
I've been around the block on Skyrim. There was one project that never really saw the light of day, and this is not the one you're thinking of. This is one of my first landscaping forays into the Skyrim, the new creation kit. and it was somebody who wanted. Well, he'd brought in like a height map of a national park. I think it was in Iceland or something like that, and he just wanted a few basic towns and stuff. And knowing me, I took it way over the top. And I built like this guy. He'd literally just given me a height map with terrain painted based on the real geography and trees fucking everywhere. And I just went ham and built him like 3 cities and, roads interconnecting, all this sort of stuff. And then put them into the mod and then nothing ever again.
Cool.
Just
Wait, for what game?
For what
this
game?
was on Skyrim. It was like a long fucking time ago. Be on the Nexus anymore.
That is the peril of working with people that you have no idea if you can trust them. Really. I mean, it happens a lot in the modding world because there's nothing to really force a person to like commit to something. That passion is like very, very important currency in our world. Like if you know somebody's passionate about something and they'll finish it, it makes it a lot easier to kind of work with them and trust them and put in the work yourself. So like I would caution, like if you don't know this motherfucker, then I don't know if I would like necessarily trust them into putting my time. You know what I mean? Just based on experience, like my time to match if I don't know that they're going to put in the same amount of work and time.
And it's always a risk.
Yeah, there's always a risk because like none of us are really, there's nothing holding us to finish a project or something. So again, it goes back to like when you're talking about beyond Skyrim. I mean, especially with a project with a lot of people, just even finishing one thing is just tremendous.
Yeah. And the quality of that as well, you guys will be surprised. It is incredibly high quality. But yeah, on Skyrim projects, the one I mentioned before we went live as well, Awake Rise of Mana Marco. I know that was when it was first announced about it, and it was mainly because of the people that were involved. You had Lowdown, Elliot Nora.
Oh, basically like an all-star team of modders, right?
Yeah, we had a ridiculous team.
It's the 92 Dream Team.
It was an insane team, and when Apollo asked me to work on it, I was like, I want you to lead the dungeon team. I was like, what? And it was like, yeah, like Ellie makes really cool shit, leading anything. So I was like, fuck it, I guess. So I got chucked into that, and I did 2 dungeons myself. Like the whole thing behind Awake was it was going to be a series of dungeons, all in the main vanilla world. Followed the story of Mana Marco taking over one of your compatriots. I remember exactly what it was.
Something like that. Mana Marco always up to fucking no good.
Usual shit.
Yeah.
He takes over, mind controls, whatever, one of your little squad, one of your gang. And you get led on an adventure that's meant to give you loot, and you end up resurrecting Mana Marco.
That fucker.
And he becomes this big, bad necromancer lich, and then you've got to go and, stomp him out.
Classic Mana Marco. Classic.
Very promising project that very quickly went to shit.
How did that happen?
It was a relatively big project with no organization at all. We hopped between multiple platforms of trying to each other and keep files organized, and it got to the point like something that me and Rich are doing, or me and Unoctium are doing right now, is we're just passing the ESP which we're working on between us, which is not ideal.
Well, how come it's not ideal? Can you explain that to people as far as like what are the problems that
because
with passing it back and forth?
There's no problems with that, apart from that we can't work on it at the same time.
Right. But that's just the general, like, you can't do that anyway, right? Just the way it's
if we had version control set up, like we probably should have done.
Oh, okay.
It would have been a bit different, but it still would have been a pain in the ass. But it's just, it would have been a bit easier. In Awake, there's a lot more people who all needed to access the ESP at the same time, which meant that nothing got done. Because one person would check it out for 2 days.
Was there ever talk about just setting up a schedule in advance, or did you do that and just people
There was just so many people involved that it just didn't work. And shortly after that, T3 Endo he had some issues going on, so he decided to take some time off. Then also had issues, and people just started dropping from the project left, right, and center.
Yeah, I think that's another underrated aspect of just team modding. Just the time zone difference. I know for me, sometimes when I'm looking for a certain person to like work on things, like with Eleonora to do cells and then for me to do other stuff, it helps that we're in separate time zones. So like when I go to sleep, I can pass the mod to her, and then when she wakes up, she can work on it, then pass it back to me. When you have like that similar time zone, it makes everything like a lot more difficult. So I mean, it sounds like that's what you ran into mostly. It's just a space thing as opposed to a leadership thing. Like, we're not throwing anybody under the bus or anything, because I know that's what you like to do based on what you've done previously with those.
That project was nobody's fault that it failed. It was just the whole group of us just didn't do it properly. It was one of the main reasons why I didn't want to grow this, the Capital Wasteland project too quickly. I wanted to make sure it would be able to do work and give it to me without any real interruptions,
Yeah, right.
And the only people that are going to have to deal with all this extra shit is really me and Unoctium.
Exactly. And he's someone you trust, right? I mean, we all know how shady he can be, but when it comes to modding, he's okay.
Yes. At his peril. Alright, so why did you want to become a level designer in the first place? I suppose we'll just get to what you do. So, why did you want to... Like, why did you, focus on world-space design and things like that? And what makes you passionate about it as opposed to Kris with writing and me with not scripting obviously, but other things.
And me with porn as well, of course.
Obviously. Can't forget that. So I think I'll use a line that I put on my games design application that got declined at uni because they said I wasn't good enough.
Oh. That's fucked up, man.
I just love the idea of creating a world that people will get lost in, wandering around in, and, just disconnect from real life for a bit.
What games do you feel like do that well? Or even mods that do that well?
The getting games on the creation engine, you just sit down and nothing else to do. Or even a lot of people, if you do have more important things to do, will just sit down and play Skyrim or play Oblivion or play Fallout for way too long, and you don't know why. But there's always, it's one of those, just one more, just another, I'll just go and check this building out, or I'll just look over there. Oh, what's that on the horizon? I have not been there, I'm going there now.
I think a lot of it is the interactivity. Like you said, you can sit down. You can't sit down in a lot of games. You can't pick up a piece of cabbage and throw it at some, or pick up a bucket and put it over somebody's head. There's always something to do.
Yeah.
And all of that detail is thanks to the level design, people like yourself, right? Because you're putting in all the little bits and pieces and stuff. Is that something that you like to do as opposed to just the big picture stuff, like the landscape stuff?
I like Bethesda. Like Bethesda does, obviously, that the level designers create their own stories. Writing. There'll just be, corpses around in certain ways that show you how, especially with the skeletons that you find in the Fallout universe, that it tells you a bit of a story about who this person was before the bombs. And all these little things that just bring the life that, even with writing you can't do.
I mean, that's the big difference between Bethesda-type games and games like Mass Effect and Witcher 3 and Assassin's Creed, because they've got huge worlds, but everything is kind of nailed down in those worlds. And they don't make a big effort on environmental design or do stuff with NPCs because everything's a prop. That for everything for your play space, where in Bethesda games, everything reacts to you, from lifting something off the ground and throwing it, or tripping over a corpse or something like that. It all feels quite real, despite people's complaints about the Bethesda games and things like that.
Or the engine.
People don't understand. And they don't appreciate the creation engine for what it is.
I agree right there, yeah. I mean, people don't understand that if they get rid of the creation engine, which they seem to think will fix it, it means there'll be no more mods.
It's carried their games for the past 10 years. They can't just get rid of it.
Yeah, I think it's pretty clear the average YouTube commenter, except for the people who listen to this show, obviously. They're all part of the, intelligent class. But other people who don't listen to this show are just, they're just trolls. They don't understand anything.
Gives you a lot more perspective.
Well, it's funny what people say about the engine as well, because I always come across, whenever I go to Reddit or whenever I go to, Twitch, they always say, Fallout 4's engine, I can't wait till they get a new engine, the creation engine is a pile of shit. But, just looking at, an article about the development of Mass Effect Andromeda.
Oh, and the Frostbite engine, yeah.
most of the problems in that
had
game,
a shit show.
Yeah, most of the problems in that game came from the fact that the dev team didn't understand how to make a game in Frostbite.
And the Frostbite engine wasn't designed for that type of game.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's harder than you think it is, yeah.
I mean, especially, like, even if you, like, open up the Unreal Engine, which is now free or whatever, they don't have, like, a dialogue system, like, built in. So you kind of have to, like, code your own and do all the programming over again. I mean, it's not like with the Creation Engine, all of that is kind of built in. And so it makes it, like, really easy to just use. I mean, so for the purpose of making a type of game that Bethesda games are, which is, like, lots of dialogue, lots of, you know, objects in the world that aren't static, that are, you know, they have a position in the world or a persistence in the world. And the Creation Engine's, like, really good with all that stuff. And if you think about any other game, there's no other game that does what Bethesda games do. Just a simple bucket in the world, like put in a different place. I mean, or being able to pick up that bucket. It's all, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not static, is basically.
Yes, the day when you won't be able to pick up the bucket in the Bethesda is the day that everyone is sad.
The buckets are very important to my gameplay experience, okay? I poop in that bucket. Then after I poop in that bucket, I put it on Delphine's head like a normal human being.
Fair enough.
Then I steal her underwear. Don't judge me.
Okay.
Judged.
Kink. There's no kink shaming on this podcast, okay?
I'm pretty sure I can think
That's
of
a rule.
Yeah. So, Skyrim Bruma, just to remind the audience, will be out in July 1st, hopefully, maybe, barring any crucifixions.
And if it's not July 1st, hopefully the user base can live with that. If it's July 2nd, you know, it won't be the end of the world. Don't worry about it. You know, you can wait another 24 hours. Just go watch, you know, whatever you're into. Watch some TV shows, watch some Netflix, watch some porn. You know, just chill.
Realize that there's an outside world.
Yeah, exactly. No, don't do that, because, you know, then you might stop playing video games. We want you to stay inside, you know, and play as many, like, video games. Get hyped for the mod. Get hyped for Beyond Skyrim. Don't go outside. Don't get a girlfriend. Don't do stuff like that. Don't get a boyfriend.
Don't go shopping. Yeah. If you want to dispose your income somewhere, we have Patreon.
Yeah. Starve yourself if you need to, but don't go on the internet and complain.
If you want to do that, feel like the thrill of spending money, I mean, links are down below. So. And Project Brazil, they keep saying they'll release, so that will be coming out tomorrow. And just go to if they don't come out tomorrow, I'll put their Facebook link below. And Fallout 4 Capital Wasteland will be out. Never. Yes.
Yeah, we'll keep it at never until we can give you even a slight idea. Because, as we've said so far in every fucking project update that I've released, this may not release.
But is there anywhere they can follow for, like, updates on the mod? Because I'm sure people would, like, on Twitter or Patreon or...
Best thing to do right now is follow Dogtooth on Twitter, because he's the lead art director. You can follow me on Twitter. I post random pictures of the random stuff every now and again. Obviously, the Discord we're talking in right now, the Road to Liberty Discord, is probably the best place to get random bits of information and obviously talk to the developers. You know, you can ask us whatever you want. What's your favourite fucking food? I don't care. Or you can follow my Twitch. You can follow Dog's Twitch. You know, there's loads of stuff, and obviously you can get little bite-sized. You're going to be expecting quality-wise, especially in the armors, from the stuff that Unoctium and Dog have already released. Are going to mostly be made by Dog. So you're going to be expecting some high-quality stuff.
Nice. Sounds fantastic. So, as that's the first Modcast done. Thanks, Naf, for joining us.
I wasn't. Okay. So, yep, there you go.
Okay.
Being held against my will.
The correct answer is you're welcome.
Join us next week for hopefully a better podcast.
Hopefully we won't have to force anyone to do the next podcast. We'll actually get a volunteer.
I'm missing E3 for this. Yeah.
Oh, good. But we don't know Bethesda E3 was recorded before Bethesda E3, so please don't talk to us about paid modding. We didn't know about it.
We had no idea what's going on. Don't crucify us.
We had no idea about Elder Scrolls 6 or KOTOR 3 or Theme Hospital 2. I just love the fact
Elder
The new
Scrolls
IP
Starfield
is what
were-
got me. Yes, has been said.
So in 5 hours time, in a couple hours time, which is when E3 is taking place, we might all be retired because when we find out that Elder Scrolls and Fallout are in the same universe. Okay, thanks Bethesda. But if that doesn't happen, we will be back in another Modcast. All right,